to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! ! This is a podcast based on a blog of the same name because we're creating our own origin story with a catchy title. I am the blogger in question and the moderator of this podcast. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out the blog at couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For at Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and the unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU! Hopes you're all keeping warm this winter. We also hope you have been following releases of brand new episodes throughout November, December, and January, and we have several more new episodes on the way. As always, though, because the panelists and I have to live lives behind the podcast, as we do advocate not being couch potatoes all the time, the episodes are being published once per week in mini seasons, kind of like The Walking Dead. So subscribe to the blog or the podcast via iTunes or Stitcher Radio to stay on top of brand new episodes. We have several episodes already published discussing Downton Abbey, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Forever, Game of Thrones, Orange is the New Black, The Vampire Diaries, and How to Get Away with Murder. We've taken a look back at True Blood, Ally McBeal, and The X-Files, and more episodes are in the works concerning the new X-Files miniseries, a revisit for Doctor Who, a reminisce about Futurama, and hopefully many, many more. If you don't hear your show in this podcast format, though, check out the blog. Fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we're always seeking new panelists, so if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello. We have a Facebook page, a Twitter, follow us at CPU Podcast, and an email address at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com. Of course, you can always subscribe to the blog, our YouTube channel, our iTunes channel, or our Stitcher Radio channel, and leave comments and reviews. We love feedback. We do. We wouldn't lie to you. Today we're around the water cooler as well as taking a first look at a crime drama based on characters appearing in and published by DC Comics from the Batman franchise, primarily those of James Gordon and Bruce Wayne. The drama in question is Gotham, which airs September through May on Fox Mondays at 8 p.m., though the show is currently in mid-season hiatus, slated to return on Leap Day this year, February 29. Season 1 aired from September 22, 2014 to May 4, 2015, and the show's second season, currently in progress, premiered on September 21, 2015. Today, we will be reflecting on both the first season and the progress of Season 2 during the show's hiatus. Created by Bruno Heller, the series stars Ben McKenzie as the young Gordon. As originally conceived, the series would have served as a straightforward story of Gordon's early days on the Gotham City Police Department force, but the idea evolved not only to include the Wayne character, but also to tell the origin stories of several Batman villains, including the Penguin, the Riddler, Catwoman, Poison Ivy, Two-Face, the Scarecrow, Mr. Freeze, Hugo Strange, and the Joker. When the series starts, a new recruit in the Gotham City Police Department named James Gordon is paired with veteran detective Harvey Bullock, played by Donal Logue, to solve one of Gotham City's highest-profile cases, the murders of Thomas and Martha Wayne. During his investigation, Gordon meets the Wayne's son Bruce, played by David Mazouz, who is now in the care of his butler, Alfred Pennyworth, played by Sean Pertwee. Meeting the younger Wayne further compels Gordon to catch the mysterious killer. Along the way, Gordon becomes involved with Gotham's mafia families and associates, including gangster Fish Mooney, played by Jada Pinkett Smith, Don Carmine Falcone, played by John Doman, and Don Salvatore Maroni, played by David Zayas. Eventually, Gordon is forced to form an unlikely friendship with Bruce, one that will help shape the boy's future in becoming Batman. In the second season, Gordon deals with the criminal activities that are secretly orchestrated by Theo Gallivan, played by James Frain, and his sister Tabitha, played by Jessica Lucas, as part of a plot to run Gotham City and to seek revenge on the Wayne family by targeting Bruce Wayne. The series also depicts the so-called rise of several infamous and prominent Batman villains, including the Penguin, played by Robin Lord Taylor, the Riddler, played by Corey Michael Smith, and Catwoman, played by Cameron Bicondova. This show has sparked some interest from would-be panelists and Batman enthusiasts in their own right, including 3 familiar voices and 1 new voice. All are ready and raring to get started, I'm sure, but before we do, it should, as always, be noted that all of our panelists have viewed the entire series to date and may discuss sensitive plot points. So, for those of you who haven't watched Gotham and plan to catch up at some point, listen at your own risk, as there will be major spoilers. At this time, I'd like the panel to introduce themselves. Like I said, you've heard all of their voices before, or maybe one is brand new to you. I would like you all, you should know this procedure that we use here. I'd like you to identify yourself by your first name and tell us how you came to watch Gotham. What made you start watching? How did you find out about it? What kept you watching? And then, of course, I'll need you to rate your interest in the show. This is a Couch Potatoes Unite standard question, although it's a tailored question for the show we're talking about. And I'm going to warn you, there are a lot of options, and I actually had to quit at some point because there are just so many characters on this show. So I'm going to read the list, but I don't expect any of you to be that far down, okay? So how would you rate your interest in this show? Do you watch it for a more detailed backstory about the Caped Crusader, as you're interested in his childhood and what made him decide to fight crime as Batman, like Bruce Wayne? Do you watch it because you feel enough attention hasn't been paid to supporting characters in the mythology, and you wonder how everyone in Gotham City made the choice of the right or wrong side of the line? Or you're looking for tips on how to fight corruption and crime because you have a high sense of idealism, like Jim Gordon? Do you watch it to learn the backstories of Batman's biggest foes, and or for tips on how to start your next criminal empire, like Oswald Cobblepot / the Penguin, or Edward Nygma / the Riddler? Do you watch it because you love the backdrop that is Gotham City, even though you know it has its flaws? In fact, you accept those flaws and are more than willing to navigate them if it helps get the job done, like Harvey Bullock. Do you watch it because you're very protective of the legacy of the franchise, particularly the young boy who would be Batman one day, like Alfred Pennyworth? Do you watch it because you like the kids on the show? They make you feel younger, or you are already young, and you don't have many friends because for you, it's been about surviving, like Selena Kyle. Do you watch it even though you think it's a little crazy, even psychotic, like Barbara Keene? Do you watch it because you want to convince people that you are the savior your city or town needs, and you're looking for tips on how to conduct a generations-old blood vendetta, like Theo Gallivan and or his sadistic sister Tabitha? Do you watch it because you are loyal to a fault or due to brainwashing, even though you don't really want to watch it, like Butch Gilzine? You don't watch it. Now, I don't expect you to answer any of the following three, but I'm going to read them anyway. You don't watch it because you don't want to see people getting hurt, even though you understand that people like the show and or to see people getting hurt, like Leslie Tompkins. You don't watch it because you think it's corrupt or illegal and a bad influence on the mean streets that you're trying to clean up, like Captain Nathaniel Barnes. Or you don't watch it because you have better things to do and or because you're dead, like the mob bosses, Captain Essen, Montoya, Lucius Fox, or really anyone else, because there are too many characters and I couldn't think of any more choices. I don't expect you to pick that one. That's the catch-all for everybody I didn't get to. Dear Gotham, there are so many characters. Okay, who would like to start?
All right, I'll start. I'm Kyle.
Hi, Kyle.
And I would say, first I got into it because I'm a big comic book fan, Batman fan, Marvel, everything. In all those categories, I'd say I'm Penguin Nygma.
Okay.
I watch it mostly for the villains and their backstories, because that's the richest part of Batman, in my opinion. And then, and when you get up a movie, you only have so much time to establish their backstories, whereas in a show, you can really delve into their histories and what makes them tick, and that's what I love.
Well, welcome, Kyle.
I am Hilary. I started watching it because, like many other people on the planet, I grew up with Batman. I'm a frequenter of Comic-Con and so on and so forth, and I had early on learned that they were going to do this show, and I was very excited about the idea of it. And so with that being said, I'm kind of on the fence. I mean, character-wise, I definitely fall into the Penguin Riddler category with Kyle, because that is the best part of Batman, is all those different awesome villains. But I'd also say that in some ways I kind of fall into the same category of like Jim Gordon, because I mean, which is kind of what you already said. Like, it's just fun to delve into those characters more. With a longer show, you get more opportunity to do that. And, you know, I like the perspective of actually seeing Batman when he is young. Because most of the time, everyone knows his backstory, but you obviously don't get to see that side of it. He's already becoming Batman, or is Batman, and
he's definitely an adult in the other version.
Yes, he's an adult. Yeah, so it's fun to see him as a child. So I mean, yeah, it kind of falls into multiple categories, but probably the biggest is the Penguin enigma.
Welcome back, Hilary.
I'm Spencer. I'd probably also fall into the Enigma Riddler thing, and it's just because those characters are so much more entertaining than the story you've heard, you know, in many different incarnations with Batman himself. And plus, these actors that they have for those characters are great. But there's a little bit of Alfred, and there's a little bit of Jim Gordon in there as well, as far as, you know, personal relation. I love this show, but it does have some big flaws that we can talk about.
How'd you come to find it?
I've always been a Batman fan. It was the first comic book I ever picked up. In fact, I have a November 1972 issue at home, which is the month and year of my birth.
Nice.
And I've always loved Batman. Just the idea that someone can take one decision, one action that's happened in their lives, and go off in a completely different direction than they would have done, and not really tire of it, but constantly fight that fight. It just appeals to me. So, being that it was Batman, and being that it was some decent actors like Donal Logue, Marina Baccarin, there's good actors in this. The addition of Michael Chiklis is good. So, it's kept me engaged despite its flaws.
Welcome, Spencer.
Thank you.
He is the new voice, if you haven't listened to other podcasts.
Hi, I'm Jen, and I came to watch Gotham. I found it actually on Hulu. Actually seen an ad. It wasn't out yet, but it was like a coming, kind of like some other shows that did the same thing, whatever. And I started watching it. I've been a big Batman fan since I was a kid. I grew up with 5 brothers, so I am a big comic person. I would say that I'm probably a mix of Bruce Wayne, Jim Gordon, and the Penguin and Riddler.
Okay.
I know, everybody.
That's essentially what I said too.
Yeah,
It's
roll
like
that.
a bit of each, but yeah.
You want to know all of it.
I want to know all of it. I like it all.
Very good. Well, welcome back, Jen.
Thank you.
And as everybody knows, if you've been listening, my name is Kylie, and I'm the moderator. And I found Gotham, essentially, if you follow the blog or if you follow the podcasts, and or if you know me on a personal level, you know that each year I actually look to see what new shows are going to be on TV. And in the 2014-2015 season, I would say that Gotham was one of the most, if not the most anticipated new show of that season. And like everybody else on the panel, I'm a huge Batman fan. Superman and Batman were my 2 initiates into comic book anything. And Batman particularly, for all the reasons that have already been stated. It's the villains, but it's also the complex psychology behind the Batman character. It's the backdrop of Gotham City. It's everything. It's one of the more appealing comic book stories to me, and I've always loved it. And I play video games, watch all the movies. I mean, I've touched everything. A comic book or 2, graphic novels, anything like that. So, huge Batman fan. As far as the spectrum, I probably would fall in the triple combination as well. I think I agree with Kyle and maybe Spencer that the most interesting part of this show is the backstories on, and maybe Hilary said it too, is the backstories on the villains. And especially with the Penguin and the Riddler and those 2 very, very good actors that are portraying them. But I also do think it's interesting to see Bruce Wayne as a very young man and kind of take the path that he's inevitably going toward. I also think it's interesting that they're presenting Jim Gordon as not just this cookie cutter, I'm going to shine the bat signal and Batman will show up and save the day kind of character. And I think that's really interesting. And we'll also talk about how Jim Gordon has had to walk a fine tightrope between his idealism and the realities of the Gotham City on the show. So, all in all, I think it's a very intelligent show, and I can't wait to get started talking about it. But before we get too far into the discussion, because Gotham is somewhat brand new, certainly brand new enough that Couch Potatoes Unite has not previously covered Gotham, we must go through the Couch Potatoes Unite rating scale. So what I'm going to have each of you do is rate the show along the series of stars, 5 being the best, 1 being the least. I'm going to read off your options to kind of give you some framework, and then we're going to go around the table, and you're each going to give your ratings, and I will too. And that'll be where we start, okay? So how would you rate the show overall? Would you rate Gotham 5 stars because you have to watch everything? Holy smokes, it's the greatest thing that you've ever seen in your whole life, and or some sliced bread, and or whatever you want to say? Is it 4 stars because it certainly seems intriguing, you're going to keep watching, but you see possible pitfalls in the premise? Is it 3 stars? You're going to give it one more try come season 2. There are things you like, things you don't like, and you're going to see which things will be allowed to flourish. Is it 2 stars? Maybe you only watched part of the first season, or maybe you've kept on to it, but you're mainly bored. There's some intrigue or fascination that holds it together, no matter how unlikely, and you're not quite convinced to keep watching, but you might try. Or is it 1 star, as in, pass on this one, guys. It's a snoozer. It's not funny. It's not good. It's boring. I fell asleep. It's not my cup of tea. There are too many options to waste time on this one. I cannot recommend it in good conscience. 1 star.
I'll kick off on this.
All right.
I really went into this show wanting it to be a 5-star.
Yeah.
Season 1 did not deliver a 5-star show. I would say season 1 delivered a 3-star show.
Yeah.
However, they did listen to the fans, which, credit to them in that regard, they saw that, this wasn't working in the format they'd originally intended, so they came out with Season 2, Rise of the Villains. Well done, because that has brought me around to a 5-star. I need to see every episode at this point.
Okay.
First season, I would say all over the board. I started out 3-star, kind of being cautious about it, and there was some bad decisions on there, bad characters, bad choices, and then I started sinking to 2. They went on hiatus, and they had time to respond to the fans' opinions, and by the time it came back, and definitely into season 2, definitely 4, and hopefully it'll get up to a 5, because I like what they're building up towards, and I like the world they're building now.
Okay. So you're landing about 4 right now?
Yeah,
okay.
4 right now.
I just want to make sure.
Early seasons with very dislikable characters like Fish Mooney and Barbara. Characters who are supposed to be big main draws for the show that everybody hated. I mean, Barbara's supposed to be Batgirl's mom, and they messed that up. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad they didn't go that way.
Yes.
Barbara is supposed to be Barbara Gordon.
Yeah. Which is Batgirl's, and her daughter ends up being.
I'm shocked, I tell you. I'm so glad they didn't do that.
And I don't see that they can redeem that at this point with the way they've told it. But I think the thing you have to take into account with this show is it's not canon. It's its own individual property. If you go into it expecting the Batman canon, you're not going to like it.
Yeah.
Which, and we'll talk about that. I mean, I literally had 0 expectations because I knew what the original premise was. So I was like, I'm going to watch it. But to find this out, I'm really glad I didn't do that because of all the characters on the show, and I'll talk about this in a second. She is by far my least favorite.
And that's why they've completely turned her. The writers have been hard on her because they know the fans don't like her.
I mean, she's so much worse than Fish, but we'll get into that.
I'm going to kind of basically go off of what everyone else has said, and then I'm going to justify my response. My response is just pretty much a straight 4 for the first and the second season. I'm going to say why. For the first season, I absolutely hate the 2 characters that were mentioned, Fish and Barbara. They're awful. They always have been awful. They will probably not be able to redeem any aspect of that, nor do I really want them to. However, I just kind of repressed that and just really got into the ones that are good, which are the main ones that we actually care about anyway. And that's what really sold it for me from the beginning, and I just focused really heavily on that. And the actors that are playing them are really good, which you mentioned at the beginning, and that's what really sold it for me. However, yes, there are some continuity things that at times kind of bother me, but like Spencer said, if you just go into it just seeing it as, not necessarily canon, but just something to just enjoy, just get your Batman feels from, basically. Then
Hashtag the feels.
Yes, hashtag the feels. then it does kind of bring it up to that next level, and I definitely think that it has, like, I still watch it every week, but to be at that holy smokes factor, yeah, there are some things that I think could be improved in the future, and it's clear that they're trying to work on that.
I'm probably somewhere in between 4 and a 5 now.
So
like
4.5, you can do a half star if you want.
Yeah. When it first came out, the first season, I did not like it real well. I mean, I still watched it because I kept hoping it would get better, and it did a lot better. But yeah, when the whole Barbara thing learned, I'm a huge Batgirl fan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a huge Batgirl fan too. Yeah.
So when I learned, I was like, oh no. Oh no.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm with you.
and I'm hoping that it'll just. And I normally when I'm like the good person, like I like all the good superheroes usually.
Sure, not the
I
villains.
have interest in the villains, but with this show, when they came out with the second season, Rise of the Villains, I'm like huge on this villain train now. I love the Penguin. How he's changed and grown and like, oh yes, and Enigma. The right word.
Yeah,
he's probably my favorite. I just really, really like him. And I have since the first season. I really liked him. The actor that plays him is excellent. And
so you're about 4.5 stars.
yeah, 4.5.
Okay. When I first started watching it, if I were to look at it from the lens of I just watched the first episode or the first couple of episodes, I would rate it 3.5 stars. It might have been a 3, except that I love Batman so much that I kept watching. Like I wanted it to do something more than what it was, because when the show first started, and I actually posted this on Facebook, like who's watching Gotham? I don't know about this show. It felt so much like a mobster drama, like The Godfather in Gotham City, and which is fine. I love gangster dramas. I mean, they're great, but that's not what I thought I was going to be watching. So it kind of caught me for a loop. I would have given it the half star because of the fact that we had such really good actors, and that's what made me say, okay, I'm going to keep watching. The Penguin's in it at least. Come on. I'm going to keep watching this. Now that we're in season 2, if I were to revise that, I would probably be squarely at a 4.5. I'm not quite a 5 star for a lot of the same reasons that Hilary said. However, I'm rapidly becoming obsessed with this Rise of the Villains season. I mean, I now have to know what's coming next. The episode that was the Penguin and the Riddler, the roommate years, was great. I love that.
Perfect.
I'm so excited. And even I was actually kind of annoyed by Selena Kyle in the first season. In the second season, she hasn't changed a lot, but they did give her a little bit more freedom, and she's a little less stiff. And I think that has helped. And there's just so if it was a fan thing, great. I'm glad they listened. But it's definitely problematic. So for those of you who maybe have started to watch it and were unconvinced, take what we're saying to heart a little bit, because I think we're all having a lot of the same reactions. Which actually now, so we kind of touched on it, but that brings me to my next question. Most of you said it, I think, but was there anyone who really liked the show right away? Were you more like, I like it right away?
Yeah, I'd say I liked it right away, just maybe not as much as I have. I mean, because I've podcasts about other shows, but because of the same things that I already said. It's mostly just, I just got excited with the fact that I was seeing young Riddler and young Penguin but yes, of course there were aspects that were making me a little leery, but for the most part those things have already improved. So I don't know, I just wasn't as quick to be like, nope, not gonna like it.
And
Everyone's
also
different.
Sean Pertwee as Alfred is like the big draw for me, because I love Dog Soldiers and everything that he's done.
Dogs? Oh, okay.
It's a horror movie.
It's a horror movie. He's a big horror fan.
Right. So for those of you, full disclosure, for those of you who listened to the X-Files series that we did, Hilary's my sister, Kyle's my brother-in-law, they're married. And Kyle loves horror. If you listen to the X-Files podcast, you know that Kyle loves horror, and that I don't. So if he says something about a horror movie, I'm going to be like, what?
Yeah.
What you talking about?
Well, you'll have to watch it. It's a very good British werewolf movie.
Is it a gory British werewolf movie?
It's more action comedy.
Yeah, it's more action.
All right.
Because pretty much the premise is like they're blending kind of like it's homage to a lot of movies like Aliens and a bunch of other movies.
Because I can do there's a line. I'll tell you where it is.
But he's
I like
great.
Sean. Yeah, I like him too. Alfred is a badass on this
Oh,
show.
yeah,
I like that they've given him. They gave you a backstory on him being ex-SAS, which is the British version of Delta Force for the Americans that don't know that. Really, they were the first major special forces in the world, and a lot of Delta Force's training came from the original SAS group. So to give him that backstory and have him being the true guardian of Bruce, because right now Bruce is a bit of a dickhead, really. He does some really stupid things.
He's very traumatized.
Yeah, he makes those teenage choices like we all did here. You know, at some time we did something really stupid and we needed an Alfred around us to kind of say, that's wrong. And let me stand in the way of the bullets that are now flying at you.
He's in a crucial developmental period dealing, obviously, with the trauma that we all know about.
Yeah. Well,
and then some girls.
And girls.
Well, they give Alfred that backstory because, like, it gives him a figure immediately close to him who he can say, like, you know, because he's a rich, pampered billionaire. Like, his first outlet into Batman. Oh, I know somebody who can teach me some things. It's his first mentor, and Alfred is his very first step into being Batman.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if Alfred wasn't there with that training and that, like, Bruce might have just, you know, kept moping, digging into his parents' death, but that gives him an outlet of, I can train, I can be active, I can be ready for when I can avenge my parents' death.
Yeah, because he's had the thirst for vengeance from the moment his parents got killed, but that would have been very easy as the billionaire playboy to just devolve into alcoholism or something else, whereas Alfred gave him a pathway, so you nailed that there.
I also like the fact that this Alfred is not quite as posh and prissy as other Alfreds have been.
Yes.
I mean, the other Alfreds have been, you know, it's all about manners and pit-pit-tut-tut. But he's a little bit more...
He's more of the Michael Caine.
Yeah, more
version.
down to earth.
A little bit more down to earth. A
little bit more cockney when he speaks. And that
definitely
kind of
came out of a harder area, you know.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And you can really feel more his emotional attachment to Bruce, because you can see that he pretty much considers Bruce the son he never had.
Yeah, he's parenting.
Yeah, and the Waynes trusted him. He is Alfred's father now. He is his legal guardian. Yeah. And I like that you get more of that, because like all this time you see him like, faithfully helping Batman, but you don't really get the Bruce Wayne, Alfred, like their history. Yeah. They should be more close and less formal.
Yeah, of course. He like we see him as an adult give him those moments of advice, but then to see the full-on parenting, again, going back to what I said, seeing Bruce as a child as opposed to an adult, the full-on parenting is I like really seeing that.
Yeah, you know, Bruce will come out with some scheme and he's like, well, that's not going to bloody happen, is it? That's great. It's like it's a complete smackdown. It's putting him in his place.
Which is what parents do sometimes.
Right. I love that as well. I think it's really added a wonderful dynamic to the show. And even though it's not canon, we don't know anything about canon where this is supposed to be, because as Hilary's mentioned, we've never had this.
Yeah, we've never really been told this part of the story.
So for all we know, this could become canon.
And that was a real big potential pitfall for this show, is who do you cast as this young Bruce Wayne?
Yes.
And they've done a really good job of picking a very good child actor who actually even has the look.
Yeah.
He does have the look.
And that's such a tricky thing at a kid at that age, because like when you're going long term,
When they
like
go
you
through
can't
puberty,
guarantee that kid's going to look like Batman in 5 years, like the physique. Like that's a big gamble. Like before puberty, how awkward they're going to turn out.
Develop that physique through his training. But.
David Mazouz was actually on a Fox show called Touch. Did you ever
It was
watch
fantastic.
I love that.
And when they cancelled that, I was furious.
Yes, me too.
Like, what?
That was because it was a very smart, very mythology-heavy show, and Fox struggles with those kinds of shows every single time. But yeah, and he didn't talk. He was mute. He was a mute child, very traumatized, but also smart, high Asperger's, and couldn't speak. He occasionally spoke, but
saw
brilliant.
everything in mathematical pattern.
Yes, it was a brilliant show, and he did a brilliant job. So when I learned that he was Bruce Wayne, I was like, yes,
me too.
He's going to be good.
Yeah, that show had Kiefer Sutherland in it as well, and I think that part of the reason it got cancelled is his schedule was very difficult to work around.
No, Kiefer, why do you got to be a diva? And now he's not going to be Jack Bauer. I'm really ticked. That's another podcast.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the other things. I know we mentioned some of the things we started to like and not like. Let's delve into those a little bit more deeply. What aspects of the show do you really love? What aspects do you really hate? Other than we kind of covered Bruce and Alfred. What about the relationship between Bruce and Jim Gordon? Because that's much closer.
It's kind of the same thing for me, because, like you were saying earlier, you also, before in the past, have seen the same kind of perspective or outlook on Jim Gordon and how him and adult Batman interact with each other. So it's interesting to see it because, again, Jim in many ways is kind of being his guardian with a lot of these things while he's developing.
He's like the uncle.
Yeah, with the GCPD. So that's, so that's kind of interesting to see. And I like Ben McKenzie in that role, by the way.
He's doing a good job.
Yeah.
One of the things that I actually like, this is very particular to how he's been delivering the character in season 2, is when he gets asked a question that's direct about some of his actions. He has this weird grimace where he goes,
Yeah.
His eyes get wide.
He shows the confidence in himself pretty well with that.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say, though, in this universe, since they're so close, if he doesn't automatically know when Bruce is Batman, then he's not very smart. Because, I know this kid who has this thirst for, he won't let go of his parents' death, and he won't let go of what's right and wrong. So if he doesn't figure out, I hope that they actually include him when Bruce starts to plan being Batman and stuff, and that he's just not oblivious.
Fair, just because of the timeline.
The timeline, he's closer to Bruce. He can see him changing.
This show, though, will most likely end the same way that Smallville did.
Correct.
As Bruce transfers to Batman, the same way that Clark transferred to Superman, you may see the end of him pulling on the cowl and cape, and that's it. That's the last shot of the show.
Exactly. That's what happened on Smallville. He got the suit, he flew into space, and
you didn't even see his face very clearly.
Feels.
That's true. Well, and Smallville was a 10-year investment. Okay.
Don't even get me started on that one.
Another podcast.
Sign me up.
So, what else do you like or not? Let's talk about the ones we don't like first.
Fish.
Let's talk about Fish.
Okay,
and the funny thing is, you could tell in the early seasons that the writers and the creators of the show just thought that character would catch fire. Because the early promos.
Okay, well, first off, if that's what they thought, then they should never have picked Jada Pinkett Smith.
Well, that's what all the promos focused on her and the Penguin. They really thought people. That's why in the first half of the first season.
She's ridiculous.
And the funny thing is, when they went on hiatus for the first season and they realized that the fans hated her, the first thing they released were a press statement saying she's not a permanent part of the show. I thought that was funny and sad.
Yeah, this week alone, I've heard rumblings that she's coming back. Please bring her back just to kill her.
Coming back like an STD, no one wants that.
So we just compared Jada Pinkett Smith to herpes.
I'm sorry, Jada,
not
for
sorry.
Listening.
No.
Hashtag
sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have never liked Jada. I have never liked her prior to marrying Will Smith, and I have really not liked her since she married Will Smith.
Yeah, and Will Smith lost points too.
Just for marrying.
Yeah, just for. There are other things, but that was the start of it.
He had choices too.
The only time
of his popularity.
Right. The only time I liked her was in Scream 2, and that's because she died.
Right.
So,
literally.
Yeah, Fish is just a really annoying character, and there was glimpses of somewhat okayness when she's on the island where the Doctor's hacking people up and doing
for body parts and that.
There were glimpses there where I think it was partly because I thought, oh good, she's going to get hacked
That's
up.
What I'm saying.
Well, and
even that, it connected to nothing.
Right.
They spent so much time on that subplot,
it was just
and
to give her
didn't
something,
matter. Yeah,
and it didn't matter.
We have Jada Pinkett Smith, we have to pay her, we have to give her a subplot, but nobody wants to see her interacting with Batman and that, so we'll just finish her off over here.
See, and if they had actually brought that, because I didn't mind the plot line with the prison, only because it did show something. Anytime she was on the mainland and scheming behind Don Falcone and against Penguin, who was scheming against her, I was like, you are useless. No one cares. You're not a Batman villain. Why are you here?
Yeah.
I don't like you. But then when she was on the prison, at least in the prison thing, when trying to stir up trouble and everything, I thought it was at least interesting that they were showing her survive. But then she gets dumped off the dock for no I mean, which was fine. I don't miss her this season at all.
No.
But it just landed nowhere. That
Her,
was a
her
terrible
absence this
storyline.
season is actually this season's greatest asset.
Probably.
I mean, and Kyle can attest to this because, I mean, we always watch these things together. And, you know, it literally got to a point where every single episode I was just, I said at least 4 times, can they just kill her?
I know.
Like, just make it happen. Because she's literally setting off everything else that's happening.
You're quiet over there, Jen.
Oh, I agree with everything.
Oh,
Trust me, I'm just...
I think her original intent was to be a vehicle for the rise of Penguin.
Yeah.
But when the visceral reaction from the fans was, ugh,
Yeah.
they had to do something else with her.
And I get that too. That was very clear. But they could have gone so many other ways. And he's doing a fine job on his own.
He
Well,
is.
that's the thing. Like, he was just so much better than her that they didn't need her friend. Like,
They did a much better job when they flipped the switch over to it being Maroney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Being the
relationship
vehicle for
worked.
bringing Penguin up,
Exactly.
because that chemistry on screen was there. There was
Yeah.
no chemistry with Fish with anybody. It was just like,
Yeah.
I'm annoying.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
I agree with everything. And then we have Barbara.
Oh my gosh. That is
It's
just
called
a train
Around
wreck
the
on
Room.
First of all, zero chemistry with Ben McKenzie, this
zero.
actress.
Or anybody.
I was like, who is she? And then why do we care that she has a girlfriend? That
Yeah,
to
when
me
did that-
felt like
I know.
Let's
And then
feel.
when
going
they
after
randomly,
the horny teenage boys,
Yes.
basically.
yeah, and then when they randomly tried to pair her with Catwoman for an episode, and then that didn't work. It was like they're desperate to find her fit, and there's just nowhere you can make her fit.
And even though she was at least 12% more interesting as a crazy person, she was still by far the most annoying of
Wow,
all
you're
the crazy
being really
people.
generous with 12%.
Well, you know.
And this is where
It's a test.
Gotham has taken a really bad turn in canon sense. Is originally their intent is that is Barbara Gordon, who is Batgirl's mom, and Jim Gordon's wife. I don't see where they've gone with the character, how they can bring that back.
I don't think
because
they can.
They-
like you said, if Jim doesn't realise that Batman is Bruce Wayne, the same problem exists in his character if he goes, "Oh, she's all right now. I'm going to marry her."
Yeah.
You,
Like,
you
this-
can't come
this-
back from this.
She murdered her parents. I'm still going to name my firstborn daughter Barbara after her.
Yeah, I was going
Like,
to say, because
That's what I start, because obviously Dr. Tompkins is now pregnant. That's
Yes.
one of the
Right.
cliffhanger factoids that we learned from the mid-season finale. And of course, she's played by Marina Baccarin. So for those of you who are sci-fi geeks, she's been on a ton of those things. Firefly, V.
She's also the voice of Gideon on Flash.
Yeah,
But she's
Flash.
a huge comic book
Yes.
nerd, so she appears in comic book movies whenever
yeah,
she
she
can.
is.
which
She
I
goes
love.
to Comic
She's
Con
awesome.
frequently as well.
Yeah, she seems like a really smart, interesting person.
And her and Ben McKenzie are dating in real life
They
Yes.
too.
are.
Yep.
Oh, are
Well,
they?
they have real chemistry.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
You can
Like
feel it.
Yes,
You
they
can
do. It's
literally
amazing how
feel
that
it.
happens.
I know.
As opposed to some other people. You can really feel it there.
So she's pregnant, so that's what I started to think about. Like, so this has got to be Barbara. What, are they going to name it after Crazy Barbara?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Why?
Yeah, they've kind of painted themselves in a corner on that. And it's going to be
Yeah.
interesting to see where that goes.
Maybe they'll
But-
try to redeem what's her name.
But
Barbara.
she doesn't
But
come
nobody
along for
wants
quite
it.
some time. In
I was going to say, yeah, Bruce is in like 5 years into being Batman, so he'd be like 30 by
Yeah.
the time she starts to be relevant.
And for a second, although it was very, very fleeting, and it was fleeting because I recognized that this villain has a backstory with an actual real name. But for a fleeting second, I thought they were setting her up to be Harley Quinn because
Ew.
of how she was interacting
Acting with Jerome.
Jerome, who was
Yeah.
I
so
think they
much
were trying
of
to
a
capture into that character's popularity so people would like Barbara.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but no.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry.
But Harley has an
It was a
actual
facade.
backstory.
Oh, yeah.
Because I thought the same thing. I thought, is this?
but
No. Do not destroy Harley Quinn.
No, and I love Harley Quinn.
but being that this show is off canon, they could very well do that. I've heard that Suicide Squad's
And
Harley
don't
Quinn
get me
is not canon.
No, it's
Well,
not,
no,
and that's
that's
something else I'm not excited for.
And the annoying thing about the comics is now they're changing Harley Quinn in the comics to try to match the Suicide Squad.
No.
That's terrible.
Like
Which is
Harley
bad.
Quinn was created when I was a child.
Well,
Please,
the beauty
stop
of Harley
it.
Quinn is that she makes those choices herself, and they're taking those choices out of her hands. So instead of being Dr. Harley Quinzel the way was in Batman the Animated Series, which had a great backstory.
Yes.
Now it's just because
one
of
of
the
the most
Joker.
brilliant cartoons, period.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like, just
her-
Batman.
Yeah.
And see, that's what Gotham has tied itself into, is this beautiful, rich universe. I mean, Batman's been around for, what, 90 years
Yes.
now?
80.
Yeah,
The
80
30s.
years. Yeah.
And there are some people, like I've actually have coworkers who have said, you know, even in terms of Gotham and Suicide Squad, that they look at it more of like, you know, well, you're getting a different perspective, you're getting a different story, because she too is a big Harley Quinn fan, so she was trying to see it as that sort of possibility, and I can see that too, but, and I don't know, maybe in some ways I'm too much of a traditionalist, but I feel like, you know, there are certain character cases where, like, it is that backstory that makes them, so why are you going to try to fiddle with it or change those aspects about them? Sometimes I'm just saying I think they go maybe too far with it, with the taking liberties on it, just so that they can reel people in.
So where do you think they've gone too far with liberties, other than...
I think she's talking about Suicide Squad.
I was
She's
talking
really
about
against that.
Suicide Squad, but yeah, like what we kind of already talked about, like with Fish and everything. I mean, so far, my favorite parts of the show is watching Penguin and Riddler and baby Catwoman.
Yeah, I
Those are
really
my-
like Catwoman.
Yeah.
The one they've done very, very well is Oswald Cobblepot, part of the
Yes.
Penguin.
Yeah.
And that is in big part due to the actor playing him.
Yes.
He is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Really, really good. The Riddler's not great in his backstory, but the actor
The
has,
actor is
has saved the character in this case.
Yes.
And like, yeah, like you can tell when he goes full Riddler, like it's just going to be a blast to watch.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I already love the fact that, okay, so in one of the scenes where he was having a schizophrenic break and he was talking to his confident
That was
version,
fun to
That
watch.
and there was
Great.
the tiny little purple envelope with the question mark, and I was like, ooh!
Now there is one problem with his character in this show. The riddles are all way too simple
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
childlike.
Yeah, he is very intense and intricate, and
He gives
I
people
feel
riddles
like
that a
it's-
5-year-old could solve, and that bothers me.
Well, I feel like, though, that, and maybe I'm just being too hopeful or too optimistic, but I actually think they're building him up towards the Riddler that we know. Because, again, we kind of talked about this before we started the podcast, but I was talking with somebody else who was reacting to the fact that he didn't like the descent of the Riddler, that it felt too short or too awkward, and I was like, well, but yes, I guess I can kind of see that, but at the same time, the way they've depicted Edward is that he's antisocial, completely
Stalkerish.
awkward, stalkerish, creepy. So it makes sense to me that he's taken sort of these big lurches toward his craziness, and that the riddles start off, I mean, he was happy and benign and in love with Miss
Playful.
Kringle and playful.
And the fact that she started dating that cop who was a complete filth bag and was beating her was his impetus.
Exactly,
It makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So him killing the cop is his first big lurch, and as I described it when I was talking to the other guy, it was like he's hanging out of the cliff by his fingertips, trying to just maintain his sanity, but then he gets so invested in Kringle, and that date accidentally strangles her, and he just
But
lets
that's
go.
because he feels that he can tell her, look, I killed him for you, and when she rejects him and starts to panic,
Right.
Yeah.
that's really his full transformation, just shy of that full transformation into the Riddler. I'm really excited to see what they do. Please no spandex with question marks on it, but
Well, he's already, the schizophrenic break one is already wearing a purple suit with a
Yes.
green tie, which I was very excited about. But I also, just to go back to the point, I know that the riddles have been really simple, but he also is making his transformation, so I feel like the riddles will follow.
let's hope so.
That's what I feel like, because like a whole part of this season is his confident side. Now that they've merged, now he's confident, so I'm hoping his intellect, he's going to really up showing off his intellect. I think
Yeah.
he was kind of hiding it because they kept him separated from the cops and everyone else, and so he kind of hid it so he could fit in.
They have written the character fairly deeply.
Yeah, so I'm hoping now that he's confident, he will lord his intelligence over everyone.
Like,
the
I'm
Riddler
waiting
should.
I'm waiting for him to have a clash with Oswald, where they're just basically like,
They
no, we're
divorce
going to
each
do it
other.
my way, and it's going to be this one-upsman game of the ambitious little sycophant versus I know more than you.
There's a great little character moment in this season that I loved. He's just said a little riddle, and Lucius Fox was like, the answer's this right
Memory.
away. And then he did the look he gives him, and he's like, who are you? Like, this intense hatred, like there's a hint of his ego.
Which is
and then I
awesome.
hope it just goes full blown.
Yes,
love
Corey
that.
Michael Smith, if
That's
you're
a good-
listening, I heart you.
Yes.
Hey, I didn't know who you were, but I heart you too.
Yeah, you have really tied that character.
And I'm really excited for Mr. Freeze.
I know they hinted at
And that's the
that in
tease
this
that we've
season.
been seeing
Yeah.
for suddenly Gotham freezing over.
I know.
Ooh, excitement.
Yeah, and like he's one of the ones that it really makes sense too, because like he is older in the comics. He is older than Batman,
Yes,
and he
yes.
already went through the problems, his wife being ill, and his problems with a corrupt company not helping him. Like that all happened around this. Like I love that, and I love
Yes.
that he fits perfectly into this, and we can see him pre-full transformation.
And unfortunately, Mr. Freeze, aside from in the animated series, has not been given
Yes.
a very good film treatment
Exactly.
No, not at all.
because it was Arnold in that abysmal fourth Batman movie with George Clooney.
Yes.
Yeah,
And then the one from the Adam West, I mean, you can compare it to the Adam West TV show all you want, but that was 60s campy crazy. So
Yeah.
I loved it, but it was 60s campy crazy.
Mr. Freeze is another very intelligent character.
Yes.
Yeah,
He's
really,
a doctor.
He's
Yeah,
really
he's
not
not-
a villain too,
No.
because like nobody would help
He's
him, so he's helping
misunderstood.
himself. He doesn't care about. He doesn't really want to hurt people. Like
He's the
he
by any
will
means
because he's
necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, his wife is in status, and he's trying to bring her back.
Right.
So
Yeah.
he has that reason. He's one of those villains that you kind of feel sorry for. He's been forced into being a villain, whereas Penguin, you don't feel sorry for him.
No, he made his choices.
It's like, okay, this is the way to get where I want to go.
But you
Yes.
still like Penguin for those choices, though.
I think that's a great part
Yeah.
due to the actor. though.
Yes.
Yeah, Robin Lord Taylor is doing an excellent job as well. If you're listening,
Shout out.
Shout out. I'm just an excellent penguin. I like how he's kind of taken little beads of all of the penguins that have come before
Yes,
and
he
then
has.
made his own penguin.
Even
out of
just
it.
the simplicity of his penguin walk, like, I just love that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
you
such a
can
nice
even
touch.
see the tiny hints of the Danny DeVito version, which I did not like.
Which
that
is not
penguin.
good, but still,
But
it's
you
still
can
fun
he's
to have
still
that
paying
nostalgia.
some homage to some of those.
Yeah.
Oh, and as an homage to the Michael Keaton films, they're having Paul Rubin play the Penguin's father.
Yes.
Oh.
And he played the Penguin's father in Batman Returns
Yes,
in a
he
cameo.
did. Yes,
So it's like
he did.
I love that they're like playing into this whole world.
It's good that Pee Wee's coming back.
They're going to show a lot more backstory as to why he is the way he is in the way he thinks, not necessarily in the way he acts, but the way he thinks is going to come very much from Paul Rubin's portrayal.
Oh, I'm very excited because this Paul Rubens would have copulated with Carol Kane's Gertrude, which we know that is a mother. So that's an interesting pairing.
That explains the mutation.
Wow. So let's talk about something else from the season that I feel we must hit on, and we were talking again about it before the recording. What about the Joker, not Joker?
Here's the thing. I hated the idea of the Joker
Yeah.
on Gotham because the Joker cannot exist without Batman. That's the whole point of his character. Is he is a reaction to Batman.
It's the yin and yang.
Exactly. And like Batman existing is taking a toll on Gotham alone. Like, yeah, he's good, but it doesn't fix everything, and it causes problems.
It's the dark side of Gotham fighting back.
Exactly. And escalation.
In the best
and all
way that we all love.
But the guy that plays Jerome, the proto-Joker, as the writers and them ended up calling him, he was so good that by the end I was like, okay, I'm fine with him being the Joker. I'm fine with them changing that because I really like this portrayal. He's just so, he's just so fun to watch.
I know, and I was looking at him like, I literally, at Christmas time, went to Hilary and I said, is he the Joker? Because I had not caught up on season 2, and she's like,
I
No,
think
he's
everyone who watched it wants him to come back and be the Joker.
It's very conflicting while you're watching it. Like, I almost feel myself getting sucked out of it because I'm just like,
how can he be the Joker?
Right.
what's going on? Like, come on, but that's the way it goes sometimes, I guess, when you write it that way.
Yeah. And that's pretty much what the writer said. Like, the Joker, like, Jerome is like a sickness on Gotham. And, like, when he broadcasts live, everybody in Gotham sees that. It kind of goes into their subconscious. And they're saying, like, the kid who becomes the Joker, like, that's hiding in his brain.
There's some damage.
So
Yeah, like he seems like a happy little kid, and then when he eventually falls into the chemical bath and has a bad day, it's there already, but it brings it out.
So you're theorizing that's what they're going to do?
That's pretty much what the writers have said.
Okay.
I mean,
They
could
said they
change that, of
will.
course,
They said
but-
they probably will at some point introduce the kid that will be Joker.
Okay.
But the thing with Joker is his point in the comics is he was a very vanilla guy
Yeah.
until he gets his accident and his bad day.
Right.
So like showing him around this time would just kind of be kind of boring. Like he would just be a regular kid, a really smart kid.
Yeah. I guess I'm just looking at it in terms of what I don't want it to be is the Joker is somehow a copycat, because
Yeah.
in most of the other iterations of Batman, you're right, it's the Joker is the direct reaction to the presence of Batman, plus the fact that he gets dumped in the chemicals and is all screwed up. You know, even Heath Ledger's majorly psychotic Joker starts post-Batman from a place of a switch flips and he goes crazy, essentially. It would bother me if the Joker on Gotham was, oh, I remember this guy from my childhood, and I'm having this really bad day, and my face is all scarred and turned white, and my face is stuck in a smile, and oh, by the way, this...
And his
who's
pregnant
this
wife
Batman?
dies the same day.
Well, yes. And his Batman, this Bat guy comes out, and who does he think he is? I mean, it just, that would bother me. I feel like the Joker is more organic than that.
Yes.
No.
So...
Well,
And
it's
that's
them-
why
it's them
he's
trying
so
to-
interesting.
It's them trying to have their cake and eat it too. Have a Joker, but not.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say it's really just a tease. It's to get people to watch it who maybe aren't watching it, and
guess.
and
Because
stuff
they know,
like
yeah,
that.
the Joker
Yeah.
is
But
Batman.
it's bothering me.
It's for ratings and network television.
I
For me,
know.
the Joker is the greatest of all supervillains in all
Yes.
comic books.
Yes.
I agree with that 100%.
Because he has no conscience.
He has
He,
no
he
conscience.
isn't. He
No.
is a unique sort of
Well,
chaos.
yeah, and his
He's
brain
a
works
total
so brilliant.
sociopath.
Yes.
So, what do we think about, I know that Hilary's mentioned baby Catwoman. What do we think about she has a very striking appearance, Cameron Bikendova, but what do we think of her, Selena Kyle?
I like her
I like
her
her.
pairings with Bruce. When they try to give her something on her own, or like even in season
But that's
2,
not
I didn't
her
really
fault. I don't think
like
it's
her joining
fault.
with Fish Mooney. I didn't like it felt
No.
Yeah, I
Like,
don't like that either.
she
That
wasn't
stuff
there
comes
yet
back
to
to
just
season
going
one.
from
I'll say-
going from like a street kid to okay, I'm a full on gangster, like carrying around a shotgun, walking around with them. Like that didn't feel. But her interactions with Bruce felt perfect.
Yeah.
It does give you that
Yeah.
that thread that goes all the way through with Selena and Bruce and Batman and Catwoman. That constant tension that's there between them, and the fact that they've in
Well,
their
they're
alter
either-
egos have gone opposite directions, but in their public personas they fit very well together. So
Yeah.
it's working there, but there are choices that they've made with her that just like walking around like a gangster
Yeah.
just didn't make
yeah,
sense.
and that's my thing, because like Jen was saying, she was bothered by the whole Batgirl business, which I am too. Like I've always been a huge Catwoman fan, and I feel like the actress that plays her is actually really good. Like when I envision, because there's been obviously other versions in the past, and I don't agree with many of them.
Oh, Catwoman has had such a trouble.
She has had a troubled history. Yeah.
Which, you know what, frankly, all the DC female characters
Yes.
have been inconsistent.
Struggle
P.S.
bus. That's called a struggle
Yes,
bus. But
As we talk to the microphone, like other people are listening. Maybe
but
some
they are. I feel like she actually is a good representation of her persona, how she should be, and she will develop, because she too was a kid. Like she was at, Kyle and I go to many Comic-Cons. She was at Motor City Comic-Con in Novi, Michigan last year, and that actress that plays her, I mean, she is, I feel, like I said, she embodies her pretty well, better than most of the other versions we've seen. But her storylines, I mean, that's not her fault.
Right.
That's
I
the
mean,
writers.
yeah, that's the writers. They could utilize her so much better than what they are. And I also agree with Kyle that the interaction that she has had with Bruce so far is awesome. Like, it's giving you those moments that you know are there, that you know happen in the future, and you feel it. You actually feel that chemistry between those two. And she talked about in her panel, too, that, I mean, they kind of put them together because they are the true children on the show, that, like, they have, like, their schooling together there and stuff like that. So they're also getting to be real close friends outside of it, which I think is adding to them on the show itself. But I love her. I think she's cute. I kind of want to take her home in my pocket.
Well, I just love like how they captured the conflict between her selfishness and his selflessness.
Yeah.
But they're still essentially soulmates.
Yes.
Despite
because they are still showing that she is Catwoman and she's going to survive.
They've they've given her that curiosity factor as well.
Yeah.
A lot of her mannerisms, they are kind of cat-like, and the curiosity in her,
that she brings to the role is really cool.
I get literally excited again with the giddiness. Like when I see those moments happen, I have that giddy feeling, like you were talking about with Riddler, and I'm like, because I love her that much. Mm-hmm. It's Catwoman. It's like, oh my gosh, yes.
And the other thing I like about the character when they do pair her with Bruce, because there are some offshoots that depict Catwoman as a little bit more morally ambiguous. She's not a villain all the time. She's sometimes a hero in her own way. And they have set up the character in Gotham to have that possibility where she could walk the line and maybe sometimes be bad and sometimes be good. So to that, I think that's been one of their successes. Although I do agree that the whole back half of season 1 was really just, pardon my French, a shit show, where they were going with the story, because it was all over the place, and I had real fear.
I feel with Gotham, the writers are not genuine fans of the material that they're working from. When you watch Daredevil, The Flash, Arrow, you can tell that the writers know the material they've come from and they're fans of it, and they want to bring it. You know, these are guys and girls that are in their 30s that grew up with this stuff, and they have the technology and everything to bring a realization of those things that we grew up loving to the screen. Mm-hmm. I don't get that feeling with Gotham in the writing. I don't feel like the writers are true fans. They're like, okay, well, how can we introduce this villain of the week sometimes? Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of its biggest flaws.
But my thing, too, is it's also on a network show, so I also wonder if Fox sometimes kind of throws whoever is involved there and throws their 2 cents in and says, you need to do things like this.
They do.
And that always becomes a problem with everything, because literally, I just want to tell you, Fox people, if that's happening, you're only hurting yourself.
Yep.
Do we need to remind you about Firefly?
Or many other
you can
shows.
say the same of any network. I mean, you look at the first season of Heroes on NBC.
Oh, boy.
What a fantastic show.
The pain.
And then you hear that every week the network was coming in and saying, we need more of this, we need that. No, let the writers write.
Yeah.
Don't keep interfering.
One of the biggest disappointments, I think, ever.
And literally, I cannot... It doesn't matter where I am. If I'm having a personal conversation, if I'm at work just shooting the shit, if I'm doing a podcast like this, anytime Heroes gets brought into the conversation, it is literally a collective. So let that be a lesson.
Yes, for sure. Well, I hope you're right. At least they do seem to be responding, and the second season, I think we all can agree, is infinitely better than the first
Far
season.
better.
Much, much better.
Yes.
And there are still room, there's still room to improve, clearly, but at the same time, it seems like a tighter ship with a little bit more focus. So I think that's definitely in its favor.
It does, although the Theo Galavan storyline seemed... It started well, but was restricted.
Yeah.
And then it gained pace awfully quickly, and then it's like, oh, what do we do with him now? Let's just kill him.
Yeah.
It was like, no.
Yeah. What did we
It kind of went a little too quickly.
And like the build-up of those monks arriving, and then the cops just like shoot them. Like they built up these mysterious monks arriving, and it's this big thing, and then it was just...
It felt oddly like they were ripping off Buffy. there's a whole storyline about monks and the first evil in season 7. Am I? Jen, come on.
You are correct.
And I'm like, this is Buffy. This is the Buffy storyline. What are they doing? And then, of course, it's very distracting because James Frayne actually played a pretty prominent character on True Blood, and I kept flashing back to that guy.
James Frayne is in everything, though.
I know.
He was good.
See, what I thought they're building up to
but-
with the monks is, because there's the Order of St. Dumas, which is very important to a Batman villain slash heel named Azrael.
Okay.
Who is a pretty interesting guy. And so I thought, okay, they're going to introduce this, because there's a different Azrael each generation. It's somebody that the monks train and brainwash. And so I was like, okay, somewhere we're going to see Azrael. And then like they kind of just swept that all away. So,
But we saw the corpse of Theo with the umbrella in his face.
That was beautiful, by the way.
Yes.
It was beautiful because you knew the Penguin was beating the crap out of him, but then to add that umbrella element, which is so Penguin, just made me laugh out loud. I was like, brilliant, well done.
Exactly. But they shipped him to that morgue in Wayne Enterprises with Doctor Strange, which we know has got to be Hugo Strange.
Yes.
So I think we're seeing him again.
I mean, there's a lot of fan theory that they're going to bring him back from the dead, and he's going to be Solomon Grundy.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
I would find that interesting because his family has a huge history in Gotham, which Solomon Grundy's like his history is like he's one of the founders of Gotham, which Theo Vale, his family is. So I could see that Grundy's backstory being that, and I would love that personally because then it gives him more.
It doesn't fit Grundy physically, though.
No.
But it depends on what they do in this
lab. It depends. It depends. Like if once they raise him from the dead, Frankenstein.
They could easily just change that. I mean,
yeah.
What do we think about the sister and the niece, Silver St. Cloud?
I think she's annoying.
Yeah, the niece, I actually wanted to see Selena Kyle beat the shit out of her.
Yes!
It's like, no, you're annoying, and I'm going to beat you to a pulp.
You annoyed me, but that's all right, because she got her digs in on her, and when that happened, I was like, that's right.
Yeah, I did like the setup for that, the way that Bruce set her up to...
That was brilliant.
That was good.
I was like, that is right. You are not going to win, and the girl that plays her, she's making her very unlikable. So kudos to you. But
yeah, they did show a good window into Bruce's intellect.
Yeah.
With that setup, which I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
and like you've always seen Bruce as super honest, not being able to lie, but being able to see him be able to put a face on. That's like the beginning of him. Batman, and when he's being Matches Malone.
But then, it's cute
criminal.
because it's like Selena contributed to that just to smudge in there. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of...
Everybody's making him Batman.
Everybody, yes! Which that aspect of it is why I like it. That's what's drawn me into it.
Yeah, I don't believe that was the original intent of the show. I don't think they ever really intended to show us the birth of Batman. I think they wanted to be about the city that created Batman. They wanted it to be about Jim Gordon.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, I've noticed in this conversation to this point, we've hardly talked about Jim Gordon.
That's true,
Which I really like.
Yeah.
I like the character. I like how, he has become the actor.
Another one of the flaws with the show, though, is that he went from being very, very low on the totem pole to now he's almost the chief of police already. It's like, okay, it's a bit of a meteoric rise.
Yeah. I feel like maybe the reason is because he's been a little more, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I feel like his storylines have been a little repetitive.
They have been.
Because he keeps, he gets demoted, and then he gets promoted, and then he gets demoted.
He makes a morally ambiguous decision.
And then his ideals come in.
And then he stresses about telling somebody
He stresses,
about it.
and then the things with his girlfriends, because then he's like, oh, hey, I don't want to tell you things, but... So I feel like that's the reason why. It's not necessarily because we all like Jim Gordon, and we like Ben McKenzie playing him in Gotham.
He's very handsome.
He's very handsome, and it's fun.
The boys have gone silent.
See, I like Harvey Bullock better.
Yeah, I
like Harvey.
Put him on screen
I was going to ask about what do you think
fun.
about this character, Harvey Bullock?
Harvey is perfect to show Gotham. Like, he's a good man in Gotham. You can see what is done to him. And I see how corrupted he is when Gordon gets there, and then he's kind of rediscovering the good side of himself, which is it is what the show's about. Mm-hmm. Them trying to pull this city out of where it's been, and he's just hilarious.
To be honest,
actors.
Yeah, Donal Logue was the bright spot of season 1 for me. I mean, with Ben McKenzie, but those
He's
two.
been good in everything I've seen him in.
Yeah.
There was a show on FX called Terriers that was really another one-season show called Terriers on FX that he was really good in. And then he was in Sons of Anarchy for a season.
Yeah, and Sons of Anarchy is good too.
Good actor, and that's one thing they've done well is they've cast pretty well for the most part. Obviously, the whole Fish Mooney debacle and Barbara Keane are the exceptions to that.
Oh, Barbara is in a coma, so she might come back.
Can we leave her in the coma for a while?
She was left she fell off the building, and then they said that she's in this
I feel like that's the writer saying, let's put her on hold while we try to figure out the Batgirl.
Let's leave it there for a while, and maybe we can recast and get someone with some chemistry with Jim to come in and play that character, and we'll have all forgotten that, that was her originally.
He's shaking his head.
I'm shaking my head. It's really good for vocal work.
I will say this, I am bummed they did, because there's two villains that it would have made perfect sense for them to introduce that they haven't, which is the ones that make the most sense. Tommy Elliott, Hush, and Real Black Mass, Roman Sionis. They're Bruce Wayne's best friends when he's a kid.
I feel like I've read a theory that they're introducing Hush.
They kind of did. His bully was named Tommy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I've read an article within the last week or two, and it was funny because they actually put a screenshot from the Buffy episode named Hush, but they attached it to Gotham, and I'm like, that is not the same. Those are not the same things.
Because their history is Tommy is Bruce Wayne's best friend, and Roman is a fake friend. His parents are all about you have to be friends with Bruce Wayne because he's going to be the leader of Gotham.
He's rich and powerful,
and so Roman resents that. And I would love to see Tommy, you can see him be the fake friend, but you can see that he is
Kyle likes
broken. Hush. I love Hush because he's one of the few Batman characters that they've created in the last decade that sticks because they try so hard to add to the canon of great villains, and they always are forgettable and disappear.
Well,
but Hush
none of them
sticks.
can really be that good.
Well, that's the thing. Your benchmark in the Batman universe is the Joker.
Right.
So if you try and introduce a new villain, they're always going to be compared to the Joker. And that makes it very difficult.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of the Firefly in this?
I was going to ask that question.
See, I never cared about the character of Firefly to begin with.
So that's a real character?
Yes.
But it was never a young girl.
It was never a young girl.
So it's a complete reimagining.
For me,
Also has ended up in the basement of the Wayne Enterprises deep dark Hugo Strange secret basement area.
I mean, it was okay. It added something to it, but I wasn't in love with it. I wasn't.
Yeah, I didn't have any emotional attachment.
Yeah, emotional attachment. That's a good word. I wasn't let's see more of that.
For me, it was nice to see a known villain, but I didn't really care about the reimagining.
I was going to say, the nice thing is that they're
trying
to
the Firefly costume they had for her, and that was awesome.
Really great.
That is exactly.
It looked amazing.
That's really close to it. But I just think, and it's nice that they introduced a couple of lesser-known villains, because a lot of people don't know about those.
Victor Zsasz, for example.
Oh, yeah. That is a good character.
Yeah, he's
and
really
well
good.
Played.
I think more people know about him than Firefly, but he's really good.
Yeah, they nailed that character from the comic. It's just unsettling, awkward. You can feel how unsettled anybody is in a room with him.
Well, that actor brings such a presence. I love the scene. And
his eyes.
He was just on last week's Blacklist, and he played a really good character in that too.
Did he?
Oh.
He's fun.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of different things. Not always, bald like that. The scene that I'm thinking about, though, and probably because I just watched season 2 over the last week or so, was when Jim and Harvey go to try to confront Butch, and this is after Butch has been cured of his brainwashing, and Victor and a bunch of Penguin's thugs show up to basically blow Butch's brains out, and he's walking up, and the camera shots from underneath, and he's like this, crossing his arms, and the gun's pointed down. I'm like, yes, that is Victor Zsasz.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just so good,
He is actually taking a minor villain like that and making him so memorable is a good part of the storyline.
I can't remember if it was season 2 or season 1, when he walks into the police station.
Yes.
And all the cops are afraid of him. The entire police station's terrified of him. He just says, give me James, give me Gordon, and they don't do anything.
Because they already know. And, I mean, to me, just the actor, when he comes in, I said quietly under my breath, his eyes, his facial expression is so piercing that you're like, ooh.
He's legitimately. What about some of these other little hints we've seen? We've met Harvey Dent, who becomes Two-Face.
Yeah.
We've seen the Scarecrow in season
That's what
1.
I was disappointed in Scarecrow.
I was disappointed in Harvey Dent. I thought the acting for Harvey Dent, he was weird.
Yeah.
He's still on there, so he's still weird.
I didn't really like that.
I don't like him as him. I've seen that guy in other things, and he's been better, so I'm not really sure what's going on there, but I don't like it either.
Yeah, Harvey Dent is supposed to be like a personable, charismatic, like
top
game
legal
show.
mind.
He's kind of
And
smarmy.
everybody. The point of Harvey before Two-Face is everybody loves Harvey.
Exactly.
They're automatically drawn to him. Like he is the likable guy. Everybody loves him. Bad guys, good guys. Everybody loves Harvey Dent, and they don't see the dark side that's lurking
He's kind
there.
of smarmy and cocky.
There's a little bit of a.
He's too manic.
Manic, or there's just something.
It's like the writers
Stiff.
wanted you to know that he's Two-Face.
Exactly.
We
Like they're
don't,
trying
but
to
we don't need
like,
you to.
We don't need you to
People
tell us
already
that.
know.
Well, yeah, and they do like a lot of like. There's a scene where he's like standing and there's like a shadow perfectly over half his face.
I remember
And
that.
they've done that a couple of times, and it's a little like hammer
Come on,
over the
I'm not
head.
stupid. You don't need to smack me in the face with it.
He's already flipping coins. I'm like, he doesn't do that until
Yeah.
later.
Come on.
Jeez.
You don't need the hintage. I mean, it's good to have some hints, but like I said, that's going back to the too far aspect for me.
Yeah, if people watching this show don't know that Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face,
Where have you been?
where have you been?
You live
Why
under a
are
rock.
they even watch? Why are they even watching Gotham in the
Exactly.
first place?
I mean, if you want to try something different, great, but get out from underneath the rock.
Oh, and I talked about this, I think, before the mic was on.
Yes.
The one villain thing I really don't like is Poison Ivy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Her,
very
for one,
strange.
she's very weird, and then, coming from a broken apartment home,
That's not her.
that's not Poison
that's
Ivy.
not
Poison
Poison
Ivy, she should be, obsessed with plants. She should be really smart, she wants to be a botanist. She shouldn't be, the very weird, disconnected kid that everyone knows is weird.
And what's...
Well, she's a femme fatale in the
She
Batman
looks-
universe.
So making her
she's
this
like a
awkward
hobo.
girl who can't talk to people and obviously looks like she stinks and has no connection to people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She looks seriously like a hobo, and that's
Yeah.
it's not politically correct.
I know. Well, that's another corner, painting themselves into a corner. I think they've done that with her too, because at some point, she's a femme fatale. She oozes sexuality, number one. Number two, there's no plants anywhere around her. She's not.
That's honestly where they're missing, because you can be very awkward as a child, and then
Grow into your
you
adult.
become the swan. But
Yeah.
See, I would have had her be a rich socialite, activist. She's obsessed with save the earth stuff, but not crazy, not villain yet, but maybe doing things that are questionable.
I can buy the weird, awkward kid that everybody thinks smells. That's what you just said, Piaz. As long as her only other friends were plants. If she interacted with the plants and then they became her friends,
that's what her character is missing.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
the connection.
It's
Calling her character Ivy is not enough. If
It's
you're going
not
to
enough.
introduce Poison Ivy, you need to give her some kind of connection.
I really
They
hope-
have her wear green, but that's not.
That's not good.
oh, that's Poison Ivy because she's green.
She's green, and they called her Ivy.
I hope that the only reason, because I feel
And
like
she's a ginger.
Yeah, I feel like they just tried to make her more street, maybe is the way to say it, just so she could have a couple interactions with her, longtime pal Selena Kyle. But I don't feel it.
I know
don't
that
feel
when
it
they developed the show, a lot of the look was supposed to be very gothic, steampunky, and that's why
I was actually going to mention that because that's a little disjointed to me right now because some parts of it are very modern, but then we have Kristen Kringle, for example, who's
dressed
got
like
her,
she's 50s.
victory rolls and little
And you
pool
see
skirts.
lots of fedoras and.
And I'm
It's
just
disjointed, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. What time period are you trying to make it seem like it's present day? Because in the scenes with Bruce Wayne, I feel like that's what they're going for. But then they go to the adult part, and I'm like,
I hadn't noticed all of those things, and now that you brought it up, it makes me a little more sad. But
I noticed right away. I was like, okay, what
are we
in? Maybe
It's
it's
'cause
its
they-
own world.
Because they want to
It
like,
is.
thing.
Yeah.
It is. It does not
It's supposed
tie
to
in
be
with any of the other
right.
DC universe that's going on right now.
No.
which is fine. But I'm still saying, if you're going to pick a motif, pick a motif.
Yes.
Because right now it just seems a little bit
that's when it starts to get choppy.
disconnected.
And that's where you come back to it's not being written by people that are fans of the material they're writing.
Right,
Is
exactly.
that right?
Fair.
That is fair. So, Well, the only other plot point I want to cover before I ask the next question is, what do you think? Spencer mentioned Michael Chiklis earlier. What do you think about the introduction of the new police captain, Nathaniel Barnes, and his strike force of Academy cadets? What do we think about that? Because he's in a lot of the scenes. We haven't touched on him yet, really.
I didn't care that much for the strike force, but I like him as, in the position he is, because Essen, before him, was a little too, no, I'm playing Gotham's rules. Oh, no, I'm a good guy with you, Gordon. Like, it was a little too wishy-washy, so having somebody who's, like, the strong stance.
That's true. She was not a very strong... I think that actress was done a real disservice again by the writers, because I thought, there's so much potential with this character, and they're doing nothing.
Yeah, I feel like whoever wrote that one specific episode wrote her one way, and then a different writer wrote a different episode, and they're like, well, I'm going to have her she's in on the corruption of Gotham. She's not helping him. And then another one saying, oh, she's doing what she can.
I think the reason they brought the Chiklis character in is that they'd written Jim pretty poorly to this point, where he's doing all these morally ambiguous things, and that isn't the Jim Gordon they wanted him to be. So they needed someone to mentor him and put him on that full, straight, narrow path, but still give him that little grey area where he lets Batman run around in tights.
Well, and that's what I thought they were kind of setting up, is, this is the backdrop, this is the Gotham, and maybe they're depicting Jim Gordon as, we're trying to tell the story of how a police commissioner would be okay with this mass vigilante running around and kind of doing the job that the cops aren't doing. I don't know. I like Michael Chiklis's portrayal. I just felt like even his introduction was disjointed, and maybe it's because they were trying to course correct and we're doing
I believe that's exactly what's happened. I believe it's a course correction action, and they brought in a good actor to do it.
Yes.
Yeah,
so that is a good thing.
And he has played a police commissioner before.
Yeah, Kyle loves The Shield. I get lectured all the time about how I haven't watched it yet.
I haven't seen that one either.
Oh, that's good.
But it does kind of feel like a little bit of desperation on the writer's behalf again.
Yes.
Is we've kind of painted ourselves into a corner here.
Just
we need to correct it
somehow.
somehow.
Come on. Like,
right.
you have...
Know your material.
You have years of stuff to work with. There should really not be any
You actually
issues.
have the deepest well of any property in comic books to work from.
That's
there
true.
really should be no friggin' reason for this. So just try... yes, course correct, but then just stay on a path.
Yeah. Pick a path and work with it a little while.
Yeah.
I also just want to give a shout out, even though it was brief, and I hope they bring her back. Michelle Gomez, who plays Missy / the Master on in the last series of Doctor Who, was the queen of that assassin squad. And I was just very excited when I saw her, because I love her. I think she's crazy. I know that's a Doctor Who podcast thing, but still.
Yeah, she's a good actress, and I like her as the Master, but I have some continuity problems with the Master and her.
Yeah.
So.
But she's fun when she's there.
Yes, I agree, but
Okay.
there's some, again, different podcasts.
Different podcasts. So, as we're now on hiatus, the show's going to resume at the end of February. What are you hoping to see out of the second half of season 2?
Well, they've made it pretty clear that Freeze is coming.
Freeze is my big draw.
Okay.
I would love a reference or something like... I would like them to bring back that sideshow with the Graysons, but this time maybe have
That's
Killer
right.
Croc as a sideshow attraction. Like it's the perfect introduction. You get the Graysons back, and we could have Killer Croc would be the same age as Bruce.
That's true.
Because that's where he should be at that age. He should be in a freak show.
Yeah, you could.
She was pregnant too.
Yeah,
she was already pregnant.
Very easily, you could have Dick Grayson as a baby.
Yeah.
That would be fine.
Is Killer Croc supposed to be in the sideshow?
In the comic books at that time, he was pretty much raised because he was born with a skin condition. And
right.
His parents immediately put him in a side. Used his skin condition for money.
But was it with the Graysons?
It was just a generic sideshow.
Oh, okay. Because that's what
he was just using it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
It
just
was
using
a
an
fun
example.
tie-in, but
Well, that's how he hates
Gotham.
humanity.
It would work.
Yeah, it would work with Gotham because they established that they're traveling all over the country,
right.
and so it makes sense for them to pick up because Killer Croc's from Florida. It makes sense for them to pick him up. And I love Killer Croc, and there's been no version of him that's been good.
Do we know who's playing Victor Freeze?
No.
I think they kept it in a mask, so they were hiring him between the hiatus.
I mean, we could Google it for fun, but it's probably not.
I think it hasn't been spoiled yet.
But I know he hasn't been transformed yet, so he's not he's using his cryotechnology.
I don't know.
but he's not full Mr. Freeze yet.
I know they were talking about it for a while because, again, the other actors that were at Comic-Con were talking about it. That they had already started writing him into it.
And they said that's what they're the most, like, the girl that plays Catwoman, she said that's what the fans are going to love to see because what they're doing with Victor Freeze is going to be really good.
She's like, I can't tell you too much, but this is what I can tell you.
Yeah, they're on those gag orders. You know how that works. I hope we get to see more Penguin and Riddler together.
Yes.
Yes.
What I'm most excited for with them is their breakup.
Yes! Which she kind of talked about. Yeah.
Their breakup is going to be huge. It's going to be fantastic
and dramatic.
So they're going to be on opposite sides of the same side.
Yes.
That's intriguing.
It is intriguing. I said this, the other guy I was talking about, it's a really smart show because they've done a lot to juxtapose those two characters. In many ways, they're opposites, but yet they overlap because we all know who they become and what their goals are.
And it's cute right now that they're trying to find their commonality.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, which, the
whole scenes where Nigma was trying to please Oswald as he
and his facial expression.
It was almost like he was the wife. It had that married couple narrative.
Yes. That is easily my most favorite episode of the series.
Yes,
It's like, I love when he's at work and Penguin keeps calling him.
Yes.
Like in the clogged toilet. And he's like, I told you not to eat that.
Stuff like that was very, very good. That was a really good episode. That was probably the strongest one of the series.
For sure.
More Penguin, more Riddler.
Indeed.
I say Ann Catwoman.
Catwoman. I don't think she's going away anytime soon.
No.
She's too important to the storyline.
For sure. What do we think is on this hard drive? Because they've introduced Lucius Fox, and he's down in the Batcave. What will become the Batcave?
Yeah, it's more like
dum dum.
Yes.
the Bat Cubby hole.
Yeah, for now. Well, it's a little messy. He hasn't cleaned it up yet.
See,
Alfred went and beat up all the computers. Okay.
He's fresh.
I just hope they don't go the route that Thomas Wayne was corrupt in some way.
That's what I'm scared of too.
Because I would hope it more in that because he didn't care about the company, he was busy working as a surgeon. I'm hoping that behind his back things got corrupt and
he's
knew
investigating.
Exactly.
That's what it needs to be.
Well, and I think they're hinting that.
That's why I hope they don't try to pull like what they think is a clever character twist.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not clever, and it kind of ruins.
Well, it ruins the entire story of the Batman if you do that.
Yeah.
I think that they have to have it that he is the impetus for Bruce to become the detective side, whereas Alfred is the impetus for him to be the fighting side. So it'll be the merging of those two father figures to create the one strong Bruce Wayne.
I like that. What Spencer says.
Hilary votes. Yes, I approve this message. I don't think that they're setting up a character twist because they've been very adamant about repeatedly saying, well, like literally every character has said it. Gallivan has said it. Lucius has said it. Anybody who has come into contact. Thomas Wayne was a good man, but he was running up, there's this bad company that he had people running.
It's going to be cat videos.
Yes.
That's just weird.
Yes.
So, just a couple other questions. Did you watch, Bruno Heller also created The Mentalist. Have you ever watched that show?
No.
Nope.
I didn't watch The Mentalist because I was watching Psych already.
Okay.
And The Mentalist was just a horrible rip-off of Psych.
Yeah,
I feel like many crime shows in general, whether they take a dramatic take or a comedic take, are pretty much ripping off another one that's already on. I like Simon Baker, I like the actors and everything that are on it, but I have no interest in that just because of it's another one of those shows.
Okay.
It was like, how can we do Psych without the comedy?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want to see Psych without the comedy. I like Psych.
Fair enough.
So I did not watch that one.
How does Gotham compare to other superhero shows? By superhero, I mean, you can compare it to DC, you can compare it to DC Marvel, you can do whatever you want to do.
Right. I like Gotham, but Flash right now is the king.
Yes.
Yes.
Because
I say DC is definitely winning in the television show realm, whereas Marvel is winning in the movie realm.
Yes.
But
And like
on
the Flash, everything that they introduce, every character is comic. Everything is from the comic. You can tell, like he said, the people that write The Flash
Reading.
love The
They
Flash.
read The Flash when
Yes.
they were teenagers.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then they even have some of the comic book writers come in and write episodes like Jeff
Yeah.
Johns, who wrote The Flash for like
And
10
he's
years.
huge with DC. He's so important.
Yeah.
If I was to rank them right now, on the DC side, I would say that Flash is the best,
Okay.
then Arrow, then Gotham.
Okay.
And Legends of Tomorrow, we're only 2 episodes in, which is 2 halves of the pilot, so I'm going to hold judgment on that one. What DC
Supergirl.
does well is episodal.
Supergirl, really?
No.
I mean, sorry.
It's
It has its moments.
throwing it out there.
It exists,
Throwing it
but
out there.
yeah.
I
DC
have
does
no
good
judgment.
episodal. Marvel does better storytelling at the moment.
Overall storytelling.
Yes.
Serial
Yeah,
storytelling.
like Daredevil and Jessica
Yes.
Jones.
Which are television shows on Netflix, so I mean, those are good.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is good. I know in our previous discussion we talked about, and Jen is actually on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast. It started off very bumpy, but it got really, really good. So I do think Marvel is improving in the TV aspect, but DC has been on TV longer than Marvel.
I was gonna
has.
They're just
say,
more fun.
well, I mean, there's been lots of other
Well,
Marvel
it
shows
helps.
in the past, but I still think that overall in the past, DC is still winning too.
Well, just
TV
by sheer
show-wise.
volume of years and,
Well,
and
that-
decades.
DC being owned by Warner Brothers, who then owns the CW and owns all
Correct.
these
Right.
production
It makes it a little
companies.
easier.
It makes it easier
Yeah.
for them to have more that they can access to without having to keep going back to legal stuff.
Spencer alluded to Smallville as a possible comparison for this show. Who watched Smallville on the
I did.
Every single episode.
Me too.
I watched
Yes.
Smallville.
I own pretty much every season on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I've watched Smallville, but I still... My thing with Smallville is I felt sometimes it focused a little too much at times on the teenage drama until the later years.
Yeah.
So that kind of puts it down a notch for me.
Here's and this is a little off topic, but I'll keep it brief. The CW, when it gets a hit, because it so rarely does, will beat the hit until it's bloody and in the ground.
Yeah.
Case in point, we talked about this on the Vampire Diaries.
Yeah.
That's one possibility. It's still good, but we're definitely feeling the wane.
Feeling the shark jumping.
It may get there. It's got potential. Another one would be Supernatural, even though I love all of those
Yeah,
characters
everybody
and I
loves
love that
Supernatural.
show.
Yeah.
The problem is they're basically recircling the drain a lot because they've been on for 11 seasons. They're going to be on their 12th season next year. So it becomes a question of how long is too long. And Smallville, I think, was one of those that was on for too long.
Yeah. But without Smallville, we wouldn't have the shows we have now because the
Correct.
Arrow was supposed to be a Smallville
Springboard.
spin-off with
Yes.
Justin Hartley.
Yes.
But then they decided to take it in a darker tone. It's like, oh, if we're already going to a darker
Which
tone,
works
we
for
should
it.
get a more
Yeah.
brooding actor.
And Stephen Amell is fantastic.
I love him.
He's
Absolutely
wonderful.
fantastic.
Yeah, and man meat, But but yeah, I agree. I kind of waver because like Arrow, I guess in terms of like if I'm gonna tier it, The Flash, I agree is by far the best. But like between Gotham and Arrow, I like them kind of on the same playing field, but for different reasons. And I feel like Arrow at times has teeter-tottered, and so if that ever becomes a discussion, I can probably input on that. But
It
I
will
fe-
be.
But,
It's on the
but there
list.
are times where
I
I feel
agree
like that
with
has
that.
been a little soap opera-y-ish,
Yes.
and
A little
they've-
bit.
and
Little bit.
and the storylines have kind of lost their kind
Well,
of
and
like
like
they split
Deathstroke
up.
was such a great
Yeah.
villain that they didn't
Yeah.
have a
So
good where to go from there. They
it
had to like
started
regroup.
off with this amazing strength. Like I was immediately sucked into it, and there's all the actors on it I really like.
They do have some brilliant actors.
Brilliant actors. Stephen Amell is amazing. John Barrowman is amazing.
Oh, right. Captain Jack is on
Captain
there.
Jack, and I've met him and hugged him. I love him. But I mean, yeah. So
Gotta watch the revival Doctor Who, Spencer.
Apparently, everyone keeps telling me, and as the only
you
Brit,
love David Tennant.
I'm the only Brit in the room, and I don't watch Doctor Who. It doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make
Well,
sense.
And one of our podcast panelists, Nick, I mean, he grew up, his parents showed him the classic era and had similar reluctance.
That's
He's
where
a
I'm
big Tom
from.
Baker fan.
Well,
And
yeah,
the same way.
I grew up
yeah.
with the Fifth Doctor on PBS reruns when I was very little. I didn't even know.
Also, Mr. Davison.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I loved that. And
But
so
you also-
I wouldn't watch the new ones that first one came out. And also Paul McGann, the special,
Yeah,
the Fox
he
special.
really likes-
I love that. Like, he was only in one thing, but I love Like, because I remember the Fifth Doctor.
Yeah, he's the 8th Doctor.
Yeah, I remember the Fifth Doctor was a really little, and when that came out, I think I was like, I don't know, like 8 or something. And I was like, oh, wow, they're bringing it to America, awesome. And then it didn't get picked up, and so then I was like, I'm not going to watch the new one.
I think
But now he does.
But now,
I think
we
going
went back a long
to
time ago and started watching those.
going back to the DC properties and which is the best. Some of the best episodes are those crossover episodes that they do with Flash and Arrow.
That is
Yes, I love those.
Those are really,
crossovers.
really
because
good.
you're tying everything together.
Yeah, it comes together. They're in the same world.
You're giving yourself that little kind of glimpse of Justice League too.
yeah, and my favorite episode of
But
Arrow
it's not
ever.
over the top either,
No.
which is really nice.
My favorite episode of Arrow ever is the episode with Captain Boomerang, who's a Flash villain.
Yes.
And like the fight scenes in that, and because like Captain Boomerang sounds like such a ridiculous villain, but the way they created they did his fighting style with his boomerangs, and he's almost unbeatable by anybody except for the Flash and Arrow combined. Like it did that character justice, and everyone makes fun of that character, but I love him.
Yeah, he was good. They did a good job, and they even cast someone with an Australian accent.
Yep. And now they can't use him anymore because of the Suicide Squad movie.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because
The Suicide Squad movie. You're ruining everything.
I'm going to hold judgment on the Suicide Squad movie. There's actually a lot of good comic book properties coming again. Deadpool and Suicide
Yeah,
Squad
Deadpool
could
I'm
be
excited
interesting.
for because I feel like that is going to be truer.
This is a good segue for the next question. We've kind of talked about it all along, but how, even though it's not canon, how well does Gotham fit into what we know as the Batman universe? And you can include the comics, the graphic novels, or any of the TV/film properties. I know. We're talking decades, and especially since Adam West's Batman is
for me,
all by itself a thing.
For me, the animated series will always be the top.
That, I agree. I think that's
It was fantastic.
Best.
It was fantastic. I think what Gotham is it is the round peg. It's not trying to go into the square hole, but it's trying to go into a round hole that's a bit smaller, or it doesn't quite fit.
Okay.
And I think that comes down to, I really don't feel that the writers are fans of the material.
Yeah.
And that's where it's falling short for me. And I think
I'm going to quote you when I set this up.
You're making so
I'm taking a step back from where I started here, where I was saying that it's gone to a 5. I think it's probably actually a 4 for me now. The more we've discussed it and discussed the holes, the bigger the holes seem to be getting to me. I think we've Swiss cheesed this show a little bit.
Well, to be fair, it was already Swiss cheese.
Because now I'm thinking about, like, wait a minute, what if the guys from The Flash actually handled the Batman show?
Oh, they would absolutely rock it.
Yeah, I know. It's like when you think about it that way, then you're
It would be a
like,
completely different
It
series.
would be totally different.
Because they could have done Gotham properly.
yeah.
Oh.
So now we're all filled with regret and remorse.
Because I love The Flash. And again, Kyle, because, we kind of talked about this in a different podcast. He's taught me so much about The Flash. Because Kyle is like, he's always grown up with these comic books. He's read them since he was like a toddler. And I didn't know as much about The Flash. And before this show ever came on, he had already taught me so much about it to the extent that when the show did come on, I was like, I'm so excited for this. And then seeing it in real time, it is so good. And it follows it so much better than anything I've ever seen.
It's like can you imagine if like Bruce Wayne showed up and learned crime scene forensics from Barry Allen?
Oh! Fan moment.
I think if we step back from comparing all of these shows, if you just take Gotham on its own, out of the DC universe, and look at it as just Gotham, it's an enjoyable show.
It's an enjoyable show.
Once you start expanding it into the DC universe and comparing it with these other DC properties like Flash and Arrow,
Batman properties,
and including everything Batman, even the Tim Burton versions, you start to see the holes, you start to see the decay, and it starts to crumble. So if you are a big DC fan and you want to put...
It has its potential, but but the people who were involved in making it need to really fully see it and stop dicking around.
Right. If you want to put Gotham in the DC universe that you've grown up with and you love, you're not going to enjoy it as much. If you can separate the two, then it's actually a very enjoyable show.
I think that's fair. And as I said when I started this, I did not come into it with expectations at all. I think that's really the best way to go about it. I just looked at it in terms of, okay, they're going to tell me a story, and this is not a part of the story that I'm familiar with. As much as I know about Batman, and I'm not an expert. I am not an expert by any stretch. I'm one of those people who knows a little about a lot, as opposed to the opposite. And that Batman would be no different. But just to I just basically erased all of what I knew and sat down and watched it and just wanted to be told a story. And I really think that's the best way to approach it. Mm-hmm. But I would also, to piggyback on what Spencer was saying, caution that it's not even the best crafted story, at least not in the first season. The first season, just from a storytelling angle, literally goes all over the place with no clear through line. And really that's what I look for, is the through line. Like if you take tributaries and bring them back, I'll be okay with that. But the first season had a bunch of little rivulets that went off and landed nowhere. They're in the ethosphere. Who knows what happened? And then some other things that carried over into season 2 that they've developed and focused on. And that's really what I think they have to continue doing. Just keep the focus.
If I could give the writers some advice, I would say focus on the Joker and the Riddler stories. Yeah. Stop trying to introduce too much. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
stop doing Villain of the Week.
Or just do the ones that you do already have that you meant to start off strongly on. Because I'd say on the flip side of that, while I agree with that, the reasons that I do enjoy it are for all of those villain character nuances that we already know and love. Because they do still have those moments in the show. To me, that's again what makes it enjoyable. So
I also hope we see more of Bruce's training. Physical training.
Yeah, I think we will.
Because, the whole idea is, he should be essentially in that mindset that the moment he gets out of the stunned silence of his parents' death, he should already essentially mentally be Batman. So I want to see him, really fully dedicate himself to that full time.
He's certainly touching on the detective side of it, and we've seen glimpses of the physical side with the training, with the boxing training with Sean Pertwee. So they're handling the Batman aspect relatively well.
Yeah. I just hope they bring in more trainers, him expanding his horizons. Alfred's teaching him the basics of brawling, and then he decides, I also want to learn this and this.
Yeah.
I just hope they don't rush parts of the storyline like they did with Theo Galavan. Because as I look back on that, I'm disappointed. It had so much potential, but it just seemed like, we've got to finish it by next week, Wednesday. What do we do? Let's stab him in the eye with an umbrella.
What? I guess we'll see what happens with him, but... Yeah,
I was also disappointed, his connection to Bruce, because they're building it up, and then just maybe the Waynes killed somebody in your family 100 years ago. It wasn't... I don't know why it was that person.
Hold a grudge much?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that whole storyline, it had combinations of Buffy and the Da Vinci Code, and I was just okay...
I think it goes further than that. There's definitely some tie-ins to other things that have happened before. Again, just go back to what you already have to work with, people.
Yeah, you use the subject material. Don't take words out of it and then completely rewrite it.
Yeah, come on.
Are you going to keep watching?
Yes.
I will at least watch through the end of this season and see where it goes. Okay. And that honestly, it depends. They may not come back for a season 3. They haven't renewed it yet.
No, they haven't. But the networks in general this year, I think they're starting to learn their lesson a little bit. There has been only 3 cancellations, and those were for the clear bombs.
Yeah, because they've been hemorrhaging viewers because they're not giving you any continuity.
Correct.
There's a reason shows used to be on the air for 10 years.
Yeah, I know. They're too quick to cancel for ratings, and they have so much more competition now, and they know it. So I think that's to our favor, but we'll see what happens. Are you going to keep watching, Jen?
Yeah, I'm going to get Spencer through the end of the season, then see where we're at then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, is there any other footnotes you want to add? Anything else you want to say?
I think we covered pretty much everything.
I think we did too.
I'm actually quite disappointed in where we've ended up because I went in really liking this show and I've gotten to the point where I'm it's really not as good as it could be.
Stupid intellectual discussion.
It's not as good as it could be, but at the same time...
It has potential.
It has potential, and it's better than where it started.
Oh,
and I
without a doubt.
So
that alone is a good thing.
Clear up the continuity and don't
More
rush
Bullock.
anything.
More Harvey.
or more Harvey.
More Penguin Riddler.
Yeah, more
Yes.
Penguin Riddler,
Yeah.
Catwoman. All that's
And
what
try to do something with Poison Ivy when she's not on screen, because oh my God,
Yeah.
she is one of my. She's not like my top. I don't know. If I were, I'd put her in a top 10 of the villains. She's not like my top 5, but she's still an interesting villain, and it does sadden me. That part of the conversation
I
depresses me.
enjoy all the Batman gals.
Yeah, me too. There's so few, of the villain kind.
Yeah, there is.
There's not that many.
So, and
And
Batman
most
is
of them
interesting.
are, like I said, they're strong in their own ways, and so I enjoy them.
But I think Kyle's right. I think we've covered Gotham ad nauseum from everything from beginning to where we are now. I hope you've enjoyed listening to it. And if you're watching the show and following this podcast, what will happen is after the season finale airs, whether or not it gets renewed, and if everyone agrees, we'll come back and we'll talk about where the show has come from this mid-season hiatus to that point. But until that time, I want to thank Kyle, Jen, Spencer, and Hilary for joining me today to discuss Gotham. I hope you've enjoyed listening to it. Please check us out on Facebook, Twitter. Our address is couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com. That's where we host the blog and all the main podcasts, but we're also available at iTunes and Stitcher Radio. We have a feed available for you to just subscribe, so please do that. In the meantime, we have several more new episodes coming down the pike, as I said at the top of this podcast. Stay tuned for that. And keep listening, keep watching. Bye-bye.